welcome yet again to Philosophy Pop-Up Workshop. It is Saturday, December 12th. We're more than 2 weeks on from our salvo. I have to take my mask off, breathing. Since our salvo of Thanksgiving evening and night, with the 3 videos. By the way, for those who are interested in these videos, yes, there are 3, not 2. One of them you actually have to hit the code. There's no picture, there's no title, but both of them will come up if you hit the code. So there was some sort of technical glitch, but it's all there. I've watched it several times. You'll see what I mean. There are 3 bars there, even though there are only 2 pictures and titles. You will see there are 3 videos, and the 3rd one was the long one about COVID. And the first video we're going to do today regards COVID, of course. There has been a gap, indeed. This is the longest gap we've had in our video making since we started in July, and subsequently I will explain the reason. It is for very, very good reason. I may add in some national things at the end, or more abstract stuff, but I think what I'm going to do is the reverse of what I did out on the docks about a month ago, where it went from local stuff to very abstract and national. Today is really going to be focused on the local and the personal. As everybody knows, things have exploded here, as they have in Massachusetts and in the nation. Some states worse than others, but overall, absolutely out of control. And by the way, Rhode Island, 30 miles from here, has by far the highest rate in the country. I mean, much, much more than the 2nd highest. In any case, I want to talk about Nantucket, and I want to go back to the beginning of the epidemic. To my knowledge, we've lost 3 people to this. The gentleman who died right at the beginning of the epidemic, back in April, I don't know anything about other than that he was a Sconset resident, and I believe a Summer resident, and that he was 84 years old, and that he had an underlying condition or conditions. The 2 deaths in the autumn, I have more to say about. This is how small a community this is. Back in, it must have been late October, I was down at Brant Point doing a cleanup and enjoying the spectacle. It was kind of a raw day, pretty miserable. The only people out there were 2 fishermen who are not normally there, not part of the fishing crowd there. And they were up on the rocks. I noticed them. Eventually I made my way down the beach and was within earshot of them. And one of them hollered to me. I didn't think that I had made their acquaintance. One of them hollered at me, and then we realized very quickly that we had met once in the summer of 2019 downtown. And we engaged in a little bit of chit-chat, and then he asked me what I thought about the COVID situation, and I got into an abstract thing about that, and he said, let me tell you something. I work in one of the hotels here, and the employees, myself and my fellow employees, are lodged at another hotel. The woman who died in late September was a housekeeper at that hotel, and you know what? I lived right next door to her. And as everybody knows, she was in her early 50s and had an underlying condition. This gentleman was right next to her for weeks and weeks, or months. The second fatality, on October 4th, Mrs. Fields was the mother of a friend of mine, Larry Field. And he and I, in our discussions of this, may she rest in peace, what we learned in one of our discussions is that his mother and my mother were born a week apart in 1940. So you have an 80-year-old native passing from this on October 4th. So there are these connections. Now, beyond the fatalities, now I will tell you why we have had a pause since Thanksgiving. The gentleman behind the camera, my collaborator, contracted COVID and was sick with mild symptoms, with flu-like symptoms for a few days, as was his brother. They contracted it not that long after we were together on Thanksgiving evening. In fact, we've traced it back, and it could have even been the next day through family members or extended family, as so many people have gotten it. He has been in quarantine until today. He and I have only communicated through the computer or the telephone, and he finished his quarantine. He's fine, but this is how intense things are. Okay, and of course, when I learned this, in an abundance of caution, even though we were absolutely positive that they had gotten these infections during the weekend with extended family and in their other get-togethers. I, by the way, have been quarantined the whole time, basically, since Thanksgiving evening, just by choice. I mean, I want to do it that way. In any case, in an abundance of caution, as soon as I found out, I called the nurses station, the hospital. They suggested coming in immediately to get tested, which I did on that Thursday, on the 3rd. And fortunately, I didn't have to wait very long. Unlike some people, I know there's been a tremendous backload and everything's overloaded here, the state, everything. I got the negative result back the next day. And by the way, the day I got tested is the day where they did over 400 tests and there were 64 that came back positive. So this is the furthest thing from an abstraction. In this very, very small community, and I just wanted to lay all that out and express, while we're here, my gratitude and relief that Armando is okay, and that Walter is okay, and that the other people, his other family members and extended family members, are okay. There are a couple of other stories I could tell you that are a little bit more removed, that are very powerful, that I think I'll wait to relate. And I think he and I should talk more before. I want to make sure that it's okay. So maybe in another video. So let me add a couple of things that are more abstract, including something that I forgot. And bear in mind, we did not one, not two, but 3 videos that night, and it got way past our normal schedules, and we were pretty exhausted by the end of it. And I forgot something that in my mind is critical. I wanted to tell people a very straightforward and very, very powerful saying from some of the oldest inhabitants of North America, the Hopi people. To paraphrase them, I think I've got it verbatim, but the first part I may be paraphrasing. It's very simple and utterly brilliant. People move, the virus moves. People stay still, the virus dies. If only people would be reminded and remind themselves, this virus only lasts for at most 2 weeks. And now the CDC has gone from 2 weeks to 10 days in terms of contagion, even less than that, 7 to 10. If only people could give up a little bit, and if people were unified, everybody takes individual responsibility and people are unified. It requires individual responsibility collectively, simultaneously. We could actually crush this here on island. And it's, of course, a lesson. It applies to the state, to the nation, to the world. But in a small community, it should not be that difficult. I want to add that disappointingly, in some of my walks, I've spent very, very little time downtown in the last few weeks. But on the periphery, I see lots of job sites. I have lots of trucks and vans passing me by. And I can tell you the compliance could be a lot better than it is. And we really, what they're asking for, they're hoping to have, and it's a pipe dream, I know, 95% compliance to have this really, really work. And from what I see, just a little bit of test case, it looks to me like 2 out of 3 people are complying with these things on Nantucket. I see people driving around in their work vans with no masks, and they don't even have masks around their necks. And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about more than one person in the van talking, no masks. And I've passed sites. Yeah, I'd say it's 60%, 60 to 70% compliance. That's better than it was, but it needs to be better. I think that pretty much covers things having to do with COVID. I'm being signaled to stop repeatedly. And bear in mind that nationally, right now, we're already up to about 90% capacity in 1 out of 3 hospitals in the country. So there's a whole other factor in this equation, of course. It's not just that more people are going to get sick and more people are going to need hospitalization. We might actually enter a scenario where there has to be ration care in certain hospitals, which of course is going to up the death rate, and in a way artificially, because that shouldn't have been necessary. So the stakes are even higher, and we've got months of this to go before the vaccines. And I'm going to leave it at that. We'll talk about vaccines and other things surrounding COVID later. I'm going to take a break for a moment, and then we're going to discuss politics. God bless, all the best. Hope you're having a good lead up to Christmas and the solstice. The solstice, boy, is a week from Monday, and Christmas is fast approaching. We're less than 2 weeks away. So I hope people are having a good build-up and a disciplined, quiet build-up, despite and because of everything else surrounding it this year. And that's it.